Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about two different ways to do VR buttons. One using Steam's built-in Unity integration, and the other custom button script that you can check out in the video description here. So to get started, we're going to need the SteamVR integration, and that's in the asset store. So you'll go to the asset store, search for SteamVR. It should pop up, hit import, check everything, and hit download. I've already done it to save some time here. But once that is done, you're going to come into your project here, delete the main camera, and search for the player. This is from the SteamVR package. This is going to be our rig. If you just search for a player here, it should pop up. You can drag it into the scene. This will include all of our cameras and mappings to our controllers for OpenVR. You can use Rift or Vive with this. And now we're going to have to set up some ground so that our player doesn't fall through the world. So scale this X to 100, scale the Z to 100. We'll reset the position and make the Y -0.5 so that it's a standing position. And call this ground. Add a table now so that we can put our buttons on just to get to them a little bit easier. Reset the position as well. Make the scale 1.5 so it has a little bit of height, and the Y 0.75 so it's sitting up on the ground here. There we go. Let's move it a little bit on the Z to get it out of the player's way. Okay, now we should have a little testing area here. So first, let's start with the SteamVR integration button. So we're going to create an empty game object. We're going to call this SteamVR button. And then inside of that, we're going to add a cube. 3D component, cube. And then this is going to be our moving part. And let's scale this down a little bit. So 0.1, 0.2 to give it some height, and 0.1 on the Z. And then move this into position here. Okay. There we go. Down a little bit. Okay. And so now on our SteamVR button, we're going to add our scripts. So let's add the interaction, or the interactable script. This script is from the SteamVR package. It comes with it. And the hover button, also from the SteamVR package, and it comes with it. You'll notice the moving part transformed. We just take our moving part game object that has our cube and drop it in here. And then in the local move distance, this is how far we're going to move on these axes when we interact with it, when it detects a hand. And let's set that to 0.05. Then we get to define the events that happen when we either push down, up, or press. So on down, I'm going to add an event, and I've already added this script, but you can find it in the description of the video. The events script. All it does is hold a couple debug logs so that we can see that we're pushing our buttons. So we'll go back to the hover button, add in our ground that holds that script, put it on any game object, and run the on press. Okay, so we have this one all set up. Let's run through quick and do the custom button. So again, create an empty game object, and we'll name this anchor. We'll need a rigid body on this, and we're not going to use gravity, and we'll make it kinematic. We don't want it to be interacted with in any way. And then we'll add our actual button. So we'll add the cube again, scale it down 0.1, 0.2, 0.1. And now to this cube, we need to add another rigid body. Don't use gravity. Don't use this kinematic because we do want this to interact with our hand and freeze everything except the position Y. because we only want it to move up and down. Now let's add the spring, and we'll connect in that anchor that we created earlier. And we'll let Unity custom configure everything with this auto configure. So we'll need to increase the spring strength a little bit, increase the dampening, and then down here on tolerance, set this to 0. It won't go to 0, but it'll get close. That'll basically be how far it can deviate from its return. So 0 will mean it'll go all the way back to its return. There'll be no deviation. So that's what we want there. And the last thing is we're going to add our button script. And this is in the video as well. This is our custom script, and it just tells our button how far it can be pushed and where it needs to come back to. So we define that with the push length. We'll do a 0.05, and then we'll add another event. Same thing from our ground object. The event script, except this one is the custom button press handler. Okay, let's position this a little bit. One thing to note too is that since this actually has a collider on it, it's going to collide with our table, and the spring action isn't going to work. So what we need to do is we need to disable the box collider on the table. Since it's not using gravity, it won't fall off. But now that'll let us push it, give us the illusion that we're pushing it through the table. And so if you do need things to sit on your table or your hands to interact with your table, what you can do is you can come into project settings, physics, and your layer collision matrix. It might be hidden. Just open it up, and you'll need to add a new tag for your button and make sure whatever your table layer and whatever your button layer on don't conflict, so that they won't register collisions with each other, and then that should work. All right, so let's test this out. Okay, so we can see our button here pushing and our other button pushing, and we can come in here and adjust the settings so this springs back a little bit faster. But this is the general concept here.